it'll never cease to amaze me in life how life can serve up something beautiful, amazing, wonderful, worth celebrating, telling everybody about. And right immediately after, almost in the same beat as something tragic and terrible, had a loss of somebody I'd worked with. Not recently, but had worked with in the past and had recently caught back up with and just communicating with. And then immediately after that, I found out a great friend of mine got married. And that has been a heck of a journey for him, just in terms of investing in the time to, love oneself and find another to share that love with. So it's just so exciting. Like, just over the moon for them, and really cool to, again, somebody I don't get to see a lot. I have a lot of friends like that, but to see that relationship from afar is beautiful. But to just juxtapose that next to this tragic loss of one of your peers is always, it's just, life is pretty crazy that way. Don't always know how to reconcile those two things. But it, immediately made me just want to call and text, reach out to close friends, tell them I love them. Because, again, that's just like, you always just assume somebody's going to be there on text message. You always just assume somebody will be there via Instagram DM, posting their next post. And I think generally it's good to assume that, but it's just I won't say it's a good reminder. Loss of somebody's not a good reminder. It is a powerful reminder of how it's not great to take things for granted. So that's where my head was at. Just a perspective change. Point at the light, take the next best step. Tell somebody you care about them, love them. Invest a little bit, make a little more eye contact, listen a little longer in conversation with somebody. Just all those little things that the expectation and the next busy thing that we're moving on to, we forget to do sometimes. So that's where I was at. Had other things I wanted to talk about. A little behind in the podcast here. A couple days of that, which I had some good ideas, still do, but for some reason just pushed it down the road. Had some more talks about accountability, concept of when the only answer is an excuse, when the only answer you can make is an excuse. Maybe we'll get to that. Things that come with consequences. Another one I was thinking about I was talking to somebody recently, and they were having a hard time at work. And what they were saying is that their boss did something, and the boss doing this made them feel less empowered. And we were going back and forth and talking about this, and I think there's a couple really important things here. Again, me, putting out this podcast, I'm always thinking about all these things, these little self-help things, mental flexibility, that kind of stuff. I always want to jump to give the answer. Oh, here's how you should frame it in your brain. Here's how you should look at it. Okay, James, shut up. Just listen. Take it all in. Get their perspective. And then maybe see if they want a response. They might not want a response. And lately I've been trying to do more of that, is just listen without a response. Maybe even waiting until someone says like, hey, what do you think? Or do you have any advice? Like really just putting that off of jumping in and giving advice off the bat, which has been a cool way to kind of navigate this stuff. Even in the gym, I think one of the really interesting times around the Open, this is the Open competition. Everybody's like really self-scrutinizing, didn't get better at this, ate too much of this, wasn't in the gym with enough doing this. I'm doing it to myself for sure. The running joke in the Hobart house is every year the Open rolls around and they have thrusters in the Open like fucking clockwork. And after every thruster workout, I turn to Cassandra and I say, hey, we don't do enough thrusters. Let's do more thrusters next year. And then, 3 days before the Open, I'm like, let's do some thrusters. Got to get ready for the Open. So not at the top of the priority list, but a funny ongoing joke, and just kind of waiting to, in the gym, hearing a lot of people talk about themselves in the Open, and their perspective, just kind of listening before I jumped like, oh, here's how you should attack this. And here's how you get better at this movement. Just listening. Sometimes they don't really even want that. They just want to get the uncomfortability of realizing you're not as fit as you thought you were. You didn't do this one goal that you wanted to do, or just a general feeling. They just want to get it off their chest. So rewind, talking to somebody about work. Boss was kind of doing something and they said how they felt less empowered. And one of the things we did talk about after the fact was, I think it's really good to feel your feelings. And all I mean by that is like, give yourself some time, because maybe you don't feel empowered, whether or not that's the reality of it, or maybe you just feel pissed or jealous or frustrated or angry, whatever. I think it's really good to give yourself some time to feel your feelings. And the reason I think about this is the example I always liked was, you're outside, you're doing some work, it's cold, you got to get tough. And there's a time and a place to tell yourself it's not that cold, or, it's not cold. But also, for the most part, it probably is cold. And you got to feel that feeling. Okay, it's cold. And the reason you got to feel that feeling is because you got to evaluate it against reality to understand what the hell to do next. Because maybe you sit there and you think about it. Okay, it's cold. How cold am I? Well, I'm not that cold. If I keep moving, I stay pretty warm. Great, keep moving. You've solved it. Or it might be something like, I'm moving, pushing hard, I'm bundled up, I'm freezing, hands are hurting. Okay, well, it's cold. You can't just ignore it and say it's not cold. Ignore the feeling. Some people will be like, well, you're confusing feeling with sensation, blah, 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 blah. Okay, whatever. It's just an example. And if you are really cold, maybe it's affecting your dexterity, affecting your wherewithal, then you have to accept that and feel it in order to figure out what to do next. So in this scenario, don't feel empowered by my boss. Okay, roger that. Like deep down inside, my knee-jerk reaction is, it's not your boss's job to empower you. Would be nice if they did. Probably more fun work environment if they do. Probably better growth environment if they do. But it's not their job to do that. And they can go over your head and meddle and do whatever they want with your business because they're the boss. Does it make them a good boss? I don't know. That's not what we're talking about. Point is, you don't feel empowered by your boss. Okay, we'll just feel that feeling. I don't need to jump in and fix it or tell them not to feel that way. Or, the one I see, the famous one I see around is like, well, you choose to feel that way, which at some fundamental level, I totally get it. We've talked about emotional custodians. You need to be responsible for your own feelings. Feelings aren't always facts. All the good Instagram quotes. Totally got it. I don't feel empowered. Okay, we'll feel that for a little while. But I think it's good when you go through this process of feeling your feelings. Maybe you're grieving. Maybe it's due to the loss of somebody you cared about. You got to feel that feeling. And I think it's really good. And even positive stuff. I do this. I get really excited over stuff. And I just want that excitement to go on forever. Or I get really excited over something, but then I move on to the next thing. I don't give myself enough time to feel, appreciate, enjoy, process, digest, taste that excitement. Okay, give yourself some time to feel the feeling. And I don't know what the time cap is, but I think it's good to have a time limit on this. I'm going to feel this feeling for some time. Because after that, at some point, I got to go measure that against reality. And I got to say, all right, well, let me take that feeling. I've calmed down. I still feel that way a little bit. Let me measure that against the things that are actually going on. Is my feeling truly a reflection of reality? Or is there something going on in reality and my feeling is not quite accurate to the reality of the scenario? For example, we talk about the boss thing, not feeling empowered by your boss. Okay, why? Boss went over your head, did something that you were working on. Well, does that give you more power? No, it doesn't. Does that empower you? Does the boss empower you? No, they probably don't. I think that's an accurate depiction of reality. But the question you get to once you calm down from that is, well, do I need my boss to empower me? That's an interesting question. I'm not going to answer that for the person, but I think that's an interesting question. Did everything that has got me to where I am right now require my boss to empower me? Probably not. Also interesting question. So I don't know what it is. Processing the feelings, right? Just feel them. Give yourself a time limit to feel them, though. And then at some point, you got to measure them back up to reality. Because I think there are a lot of times we have some feelings, angry, frustrated, jealous, and then you throw that thing back up against reality, and you're like, ooh, you know what? I am blowing this out of proportion. There's some other stuff mixing in here, other feelings, other events that have happened that I'm starting to mix into this one. And that's why this is, I'm starting to get really twisted about this one. And then after you've measured it back against reality, you'll hopefully have a little more clarity to think about what to do next. I think about the grieving one. And at some point, and there are cases where it is, not every tragedy is your own. I wholly believe everybody needs their own different timeline to process. Everybody deals with this differently. And everyone has a different proximity to it. Family members, loved ones, children, spouses, very close to it. And we've talked about this before. We've talked about the idea of like, you can't become your symptoms. You can't become your disease. I'm grieving. I'm working through something. I need to feel these feelings. I probably have to do it for a little while. But I permanently cannot become this grief. I permanently cannot become this tragedy. And I think that's an important thing to remember when those kinds of things happen. Spend time feeling it. But it cannot be that way for you forever because the world goes on. And I'm not saying forget people's memories. I'm not saying be callous. I'm saying there's a lot more productive work in carrying it forward. And not just, again, we've talked a lot about ruminating in the past. So, accountability. I missed some accountabilities. I've got to be accountable to my accountability journal. Oh man, this was a weird one. I don't want to talk about this, but doing the open workouts. Open's always a weird time for me because I think that I'll never be as fit as I used to be. And I don't truly mean never, but the investment I think it would take for me to be as fit as some of my past Jameses, I don't think I'm willing to put in anymore. At least I sure as hell haven't been willing to put that in lately. I show up. I do workouts. I don't do terribly hard workouts. Work out pretty consistently. Sometimes hard ones here or there. Not like I used to be. So whenever we repeat workouts in the open, annual, CrossFit competition online, so workouts from the past, sometimes they'll repeat those workouts, do them again. I hate measuring myself against my past self. Probably one of my least favorite things to do. And one of the reasons is because, the numbers don't lie. 1 minute slower than last year, 2 minutes slower than 3 years ago. And everyone says, wow, you're getting older as in the past. And I fucking hate that rhetoric because I know what the truth is. Yes, I'm getting older. The truth is, I'm being a little lazy with something I care about. And maybe I'm holding on a little bit too much to something I'm not willing to invest in. And it's, sometimes it's, it's not real world problems with everything else we've talked about on this podcast. Talk about a first world problem, but it's something that was grinding my gears. It's an excuse. It's for sure an excuse. And this is a weird accountability journal one because I was getting ready to do one of the workouts and the workout was a repeat the other night. We had a great Friday Night Lights and then Saturday I went in to do it and I took some photos and hung out in the gym and judged and just yucking it up, having a great time. And I was coming up to my heat and I decided not to warm up, and somebody asked me, my wife asked me, you're not going to warm up? I said, no, it doesn't matter if I warm up or not. It's like I'm still going to be slower than I was in 2022. Whoo, is that a shitty excuse? A woe-is me attitude. So what am I pointing at externally? What am I blaming? Well, I'm pointing at externally the fact that I had a certain score in 2022, and it was going to be tough for me to beat that score. Okay. Well, what are things that I did to contribute to this event? Well, there's the long standing, I just don't train as hard as I used to. But the point is, I don't think I'm going to train that hard. And I think in my mind, it's still better to fight the fight well and lose than not fight it that hard and lose. I think even though both are a loss, I think there's a better loss, if there is such a thing, in one of those options. What could have I done differently? Well, honestly, I probably could have thought about the workout a little more and strategized it in a way where what strengths I have, I could have played to those. 2, warming up is always good. Hate to admit it, but it will help. That certainly could have helped. Could have spent a little time setting up my station better, wrapping my head around the workout, giving myself a specific goal. Could have done a lot of things differently. So woke up Sunday, went to the gym, did the workout again, did better. Not better than 2022, but better than yesterday. Tried harder. Felt better about it. So, yeah, that was it. Going to keep cranking on the accountability journal. I know I'm a little behind there. But again, if you want to play along, my goal is to do them Wednesdays and Sundays, pointing at something that, you're basically discussing something you pointed at externally and you blame that thing for some result. You're going to look at what are some things you did to actually contribute to that result. And then you're going to look at some things of how you could have mitigated. What are things that were directly in your control that you could have changed? Because I want to get myself into this mindset and maybe share this with other people of like, even in any scenario, you can do things to help you navigate that scenario better. Even when it feels like, everything externally is the problem. That's where we're at. Slightly longer one today, but we're playing makeup. And for anybody out there grieving, I just wish you peace and love as you work your way through it. So, both condolences and congratulations this week in the largest amounts. Weird week, but we got a new one tomorrow.